Jesus, it takes so long to get this guy ready. What's going on, guys? So, post-graduation, and Rory and I wanted to sit down with you guys and basically talk about what we've learned over the last 2 years. I don't know how many of you guys kept up with the Kill Built Radio podcast. It's been a while since I recorded on that. Life just got busy, and you'll hear us talk all about that in this video. And before we get started, so I'll let Rory talk about it a little more just because he has more of it embedded in his head. But we are starting a run club in the Pacific Northwest area, specifically like Washington. So if anywhere in like Tacoma, Seattle, or any surrounding neighborhoods, just reach out to us with like any questions you got. We'll answer them to the best of our ability, and they'll be hosted every Sunday. We don't have a time yet or anything. That's why I said just like message us, because by the time that this video drops, we'll probably have a more concrete idea of what we got going down. And I'll let Rory kind of expand on like the name, the idea, and the message behind it. So
we wanted to start a run club. Levi got approached by Transparent Labs. He can expand on it a little bit more, but basically to do some different marketing tactics and things like that to try and grow their brand and also expand what Levi's been doing for the brand. So one of the ideas that we had already had was doing a run club in the area, just because obviously run clubs are popping off everywhere. Everyone's launching a run club. And we don't want it just to be a run club. We want to do a run and training club, but we just wanted to launch something in the area where we can meet more people in Tacoma and train with some like-minded individuals and get after it and have a good time. So probably start off at around one a month or twice a month when we first get it going, and then grow from there as the club grows. But the name of the club will be One and Done. So it's the one run you got going on for the day, or the one training session you got going on for the day, and then you're done and you can hang out and have a good time. We want to make it a really fun and exciting environment. So it'll be a fun training session, a hard training session with various groups for pacing and things like that, and people that actually serve as pacers at the event. And then we'll have a hangout afterwards. Since it will be a less frequent run club, we plan to have food and getting together and things like that afterwards. So a little barbecue, connect with people, and just have a good time and enjoy the training, enjoy great weather, and just making new friends. So it's a little bit about that. You got anything else you want to cover with it? But
yeah, with Transparent Labs being the sponsor, just because you brought that up and I completely forgot about it, there'll be like free stuff provided, not like you're going to get like a whole tub of protein. We'll do like a giveaway and stuff like that for sure for the run club. Again, we have to figure out the details and hone in on it. That's why I told you guys, if you guys got questions about it, just let us know. I'm pretty sure we'll come up with like a Strava club or something. We'll make
we definitely want to do some pop-ups. So we'll have Elevate and Kill Build up there too. We'll do some one and done merch. And then also giving out Transparent Lab samples with the electrolyte mixes, some of the protein bars and things like that. And then also have stuff for purchase as well if you want to support either of our brands or the Transparent Lab supplements. So that's a big part of it, is getting you guys quality products that'll help fuel your workouts and help you guys perform the best that you can with whatever training you're trying to do. So
and that's all we got on that. I think I can't think of anything else.
Nope. Now let's dive into this actual pod.
I think that this is like goofy because like genuinely I think back to when we were, what building was it for? Was it even, no, it wasn't even in the Cherry Park building. It was that Joy,
the other one.
Yeah, it was the one where like there's that place we took pictures.
Yeah.
I think what's weird about it, and like this is more so about college rather than the podcast itself. Like the podcast was cool and all and whatnot, and Ezra's camera angle is goofy as shit. But I think it's just weird how fast time went by. Like our first year, I feel like our first year was almost slower. I feel like there was just so much. There was like the same amount going on, I felt like. But this year, our second year was like light speed. Like I don't even remember our second year that much.
No, I think a big reason for that is our schedules are so synced up. The first year we were hanging out, and so like when I moved over to Tacoma Barbell, we were on the same workout program. We were training every single morning together, and then going and doing our separate things. And then we'd link up sometimes, probably like 3 or 4 times a week after the day was over to go do something else, whether it's photo shoots or video content or other things like that. So we saw each other all the time, and our schedules were really synced in that regard. But then, especially with the breaks in between classes, but then it would get kicked off and we'd be busy with school and stuff like that. But as of the past year, I think just with switching to base fitness and just our different schedules, we haven't been as synced. So it would be like big periods where we would be synced up and hanging out, and then we'd go a few weeks at a time without that.
Yeah.
And then so it seemed like the time was flying a lot faster. And so you were doing bodybuilding training, and I was preparing for a season of motocross, and so I was doing a ton of cycling and not showing up to doing lifting at the gym as much. So I think that definitely was a big proponent of it. But
yeah, it's just weird. I mean, people are always going to say this the older you get, so I try not to sound like a broken record, but like the whole, oh, time flies, blah, blah, blah type shit. And it's like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just weird that we're sitting here, 2 years later, like I barely met you. And I think one of the best things, and I've never even said this to you, but I think one of the best things about when I went to school is like, I was going to school again, and it was weird for me to go back to school because like everyone that I went to school with was graduating the time that I enrolled back into school, because I literally enrolled after everyone that I went to school with graduated. Like everyone was class of 2022, and I am again, enrolling with 2 more years to go. So you kind of feel like, dude, shit, like I'm the only person that's still here. Like, what the heck? Like, I'm gonna need my buddies to go to school with, and all of a sudden, here comes Rory with the same amount of time left for school. I don't know, it just like blew my mind. It made me happy, I guess, what I'm trying to say. Like, damn, I'm not the only one going through this shit. It's good to have
someone going through the similar situation, stuff like that, because I have my Army buddies that are going to school, and they're older like I am, and they're doing undergrad with a bunch of younger kids and stuff like that, but they aren't going to UW. And so we didn't go to the same campus, but we still went to UW, and we were able to relate over that and had similar classes and stuff. So I think it definitely helped in that regard because we could relate to the same projects that we're doing, similar stuff. So yeah, it was nice in that regard, because going to UW Seattle, a bunch of younger kids, you make friends with them, but you're not there to I was commuting home, and I wasn't able to stay on campus and stay super late all the time to go do clubs and events and things like that to make really, really close connections. I had some friends that I made there, but not nearly as much as I would have if I had lived up at the campus and was there all the time. So having you and other people like that in the Tacoma area to hang out with as well, definitely was good to see how people to go through the situation with. But
yeah, because it would have sucked so much. Like, dude, it was a blessing for real. Like, could you imagine if we both went to school and like, because you're right, like both of us would have never, the same connections we have now at school would have been the same whether you and I were here or not. Like, I met a couple people that I'm like cool with, but nothing like, where I'm actually like trying to kick it with them or nothing, because I don't know what the hell they're doing, but it's just weird.
It's different for sure. I think also just going back to school when you're older is different. You have a different look on the whole situation and stuff. You're there to get in and get out and get the job done, as where other people, when you're younger, you want to soak up that time as much as you possibly can. We're past that point, and so we're trying to get to the next chapter as quickly as we can, while also enjoying that time and leveraging the resources at the school. I think just there's a balance to it as an older student for sure. But.
Yeah, I don't know, it was interesting. It was an interesting time for sure. Like, at times, like I felt like my life was like kind of like all over the place, but I mean, in reality, it really wasn't. You always say like, oh, everything happens for a reason type stuff and whatnot, but I don't know, did it feel like all over the place for you? Like, I felt like at times it was just like, what the heck is going on? Like, what the heck?
I think you and I both put a lot on our plates just with outside of the school stuff. Like, if we just had school going on, that would be a lot easier to just perform really well in the classroom, and then also just leverage all the resources at the school. But like, I had Elevate, I had U-Ride, I was doing social media for my personal brand and all of those accounts, and I was doing school, and I was commuting home, and I'm married. And so like, it was a lot all at once, and a lot of different time sinks, including like training and stuff. And so I also was waiting to get into Foster, so I was doing pre-med classes still, like my original degree. And I think that's where my time really got drained. The worst quarter, at one of the hardest quarters I ever had, was just because of all the pre-med classes and having to do all the labs. And instead of like a traditional Foster business school class where it's only, you meet twice a week for an hour and 50 minutes, it's 3 sessions a week or 5 sessions a week, depending on the class, plus your 1 week or once a week lab and once a week meeting with the extra lecture with the professor. So I was slammed and just fried my brain that quarter. And it's just prioritization is a huge thing when you're trying to do all these extra things outside of the classroom or outside of your work, trying to start your own companies and stuff, is just knowing where to feed your energy at that moment when you really need to. Like in that time, I had to unfortunately pump the brakes a little bit on Elevate and U-Ride just because I needed to go all in with, U-Ride wasn't even a thing at that time, but just going all in on school to make sure that I could stay afloat and get the grades that I'm holding myself to and things like that. But
we've talked about that before, where, like you said, we put a lot of things on our plate. And I feel like one of the biggest struggles you and I have, and we've called each other out on it before. We talked about it actually like a month or two ago when we went to your motocross and this happened to your foot, where we put so much on our plate and then we wonder why we're not like super good in one area. And it's because like we're spreading ourselves thin all of the time. Like it goes back to the saying, like, a jack of all trades is a master of none. And I feel like that's us all of the time. Not saying that we're not good at things, like we are. There's a lot of things that we're good at, but at the same time, I feel like during school we constantly were getting ourselves into something that we didn't necessarily need to get ourselves into. Like it led to like good opportunities, but we probably didn't need to do all that.
Yeah, I think like just knowing our drive and our work ethic, like you and I could have easily been 4.0 students, like 100% 4.0 students if we only had school going on or school and clubs and things like that. But like when you have school and you have, like in my case, I have my Rory Holland page, I have my Elevate page, I have my Find the Line page, I have my U-Ride page that I'm all managing, and having to do all of that for not just Instagram, but every other platform as well, and being able to repurpose content for that. Like that's a time sink. And then also having family time and being able to keep your life balanced. So yeah, it took a lot away from that and just pulled us away from school. But it's also just what I was talking about before, is just really had to learn and improve upon the skill of prioritization and knowing where to channel your energy at that moment. But
I feel personally, like looking back, I felt like the first year of us being in school, like together, that was like the worst year for me personally. And I think you already touched on it because like that was the quarter you took like the med classes and stuff like that, and you're super busy. It was the worst quarter for me too, only because like I think mine are more so like personal reasons. Like I was just entering that kind of like a normalcy kind of with my mind a little bit. But like the whole, again, this is touching on like everything on your plate. Like I was already kind of set in something, and then like all of a sudden I just rebranded all of my content. And it was just like that first year was just sucking because it was just like, holy crap, you have this going on and you have like business stuff going on, you know what I mean? That first year was rough.
Yeah, I think it was the hardest part for me. It was my first quarters getting out of the military and going back to school. That quarter I was just talking about with all the meds programs was my busiest in terms of just commitment from school. Like I literally was leaving at 6:30 in the morning to get to public transit, and I wasn't getting home till like 9 or 10 at night.
I remember that.
Multiple days a week. So like my health deteriorated from that, and my TBI related migraines started to back up a lot, which they had dropped down a little bit prior to that. So that sucked big time. But my worst quarters I ever had was my first 2 quarters when I got out of the military. And that was just because going back into school full time when you hadn't been in school full time at all was really hard. And I had my TBI that was the worst point I had ever had it really. And so I had to miss a ton of class and couldn't perform inside the classroom because I wasn't in the right mindset when you're dealing with a massive injury like that. So I did terrible in those classes, and luckily it was the COVID period, so you could do the select or satisfactory, non-satisfactory grades and stuff. So that helped me a lot when it came to my actual grade report for applying to my next programs and stuff. But that was tough. But.
Yeah, for sure. Now, like in terms of like what we learned, because we just kind of touched on, how these first year and the second year went. Like the first year was like difficult, but like we saw each other more, and then like the second year was just like, after, for me personally, like I remember like the other day I was looking back on some of the things I learned from when we had started all the way to the end. And I remember thinking to myself, one of the biggest things, we were talking about this on the way here, just like getting ready for this, is, I learned to not overthink as much, because one of my, I believe, and we all have superpowers. We all have things that we're naturally good at. One of my things is problem solving. Chemistry and physics have never been a problem for me like other students, and I've probably never told you about this before. Like, I'm stellar when it comes to physics and chemistry. Shoot, I should have majored in that. But I'm good at it because it requires problem solving. In it, there's, you have a problem and you're like, how do I get to this? Like, I can start connecting the dots. And that used to be something that was like awesome for me. Like, I love problem solving. But at one point in my life, it started to consume me. Like, I started thinking, what if about other things because I couldn't figure out a problem. I wanted it instant. And I think with you, it's like you've slowed things down. You can even tell in our demeanors. I'm pretty sure like they're hearing us right now. Even my demeanor is like a lot more like, and you're like a lot more, I wouldn't say calm because you're not necessarily a calm individual, but you're more of like you got more stoic to you than me.
Yeah.
I would describe it as that. Kind of like those Russian MMA fighters. They're just like, yeah, okay. Like, we're just going to make a decision and run with it. And if something happens, we're going to adjust and act.
Yeah, I think I've had elements of that definitely my whole life, but I think it was harnessed for sure in the military and just being in a special operations unit like I was in. I think that's where it really took its form, is like they talk about all the time in the military, and specifically in my unit, is a decision's better than no decision. If you wait to make a decision, it just takes time on the battlefield, or it takes time in life, and then you're just hindering any forward progression that you could have had, whether it's in the wrong direction or the right direction. So same thing, you see it all the time with people wondering if they should start a company, and then they just wait. In that time, you could have at least started the company and found out this industry sucks and I failed, and it wouldn't have been a good thing to dive into. Or you could have started a company and that was a year that you already spent building your company, and now you're that much further ahead. So I think that is a huge part of it, is just taking action. I think the other thing with the calm demeanor is, like we talk about a lot, is you can control what you can control and the rest will fall in line. And so just letting that happen, do everything that you can decisions wise and control wise to set up your situation, your circumstances how you want them, and then the rest will happen however it's supposed to happen. And you just act and react to that situation, react to what comes to you, but also act forward thinking from a forward thinking standpoint to prepare for any possible course of action. So
and I mean, he basically answered like what I've been able to learn, just through his behavior. It's not like you never told me this stuff. It was just through your behavior. I would be saying, like, I probably said what if a lot. I mean, pretty like neurotic when it comes to a lot of my thinking. And so I'd probably say something and you'd be like, cool, like, I don't give a shit. And like, it never came off rude to me. It was like what I needed to hear. It's kind of like sometimes you need to hear the truth in order to like basically be a human, I guess. And I just was always operating, I think, out of a place of fear. And like, you've slowly gotten me back to, and I texted you about this the other day. Like, I used to be in a place where I was more like that, like just keep going with the moment. And then like, you have something where you can't figure it out in life. Like, you're, like I said, problem solver, and you can't figure it out. And so it just causes you to overthink. You can't think it through. And so you've been able to be like, you don't have to have all the answers. You just got to keep going with the information that you have. And I'm pretty sure they told you this in special operations. Like, you make the best decision you can with the stuff that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think just it ties into entrepreneurship and segues into the second year of what we wanted to talk about, but like using all of the resources and information you have and maximizing that. And so like, it goes back to what I said a second ago of just controlling your situation and using, like, with entrepreneurship in general and just life, like, if you want to perform at the best, utilize everything that you have in your capability, whether it's your potential, your situation, or your resources around you, maximize those, and punch above your weight. And that's something you and I both are trying to do with the companies that we're trying to get off the ground. And what I'm trying to do with You Ride is, which is a company that we started in the University of Washington in the second year. So punching above our weight. And what that means is just maximizing everything that we can, all the areas of the business, and doing all the little things right on a daily basis so that we can perform at the best and look and feel, have the look and feel of a brand that's well above where we're at financially, and just from a revenue standpoint, from a business standpoint, from the sales that we're making, from the partners we're working with, that kind of thing. And so, so going back into year 2 a little bit more, one of the big things that happened for me personally in year 2 was the creating a company course and then Jones Foster Accelerator. And so what those were, it was the creating a company course where the school literally gives you money to start a company. And then within that, you are great. For quarter 1, you take the money and you have to create a prototype. And then in quarter 2, you do an investor pitch to get money to actually start the company and go out and make sales, and you're graded on how much you sell. And so that's where my second company, You Ride, the ski company, obviously, was born from that. And so that was a really interesting time, just having a second company and learning how to balance both at the same time. Having Elevate already for a year and a half at that point really helped me with You Ride, because I knew what to do to get it off the ground from the infancy stage. But I also, it was a completely different industry and style of product that we were doing. So learning how to actually manufacture that, deal with the partners for that and the logistics behind it. And then also having teammates that were a part of the company as opposed to contracted teammates like they are with Elevate, like managing personalities within the company and different roles and everything like that, and helping optimize the company from that standpoint. It was a interesting time where we learned a lot and we pushed forward as a brand and performed really well. And we're the only company to keep going out of creating a company and moving into JFA, the Jones Foster Accelerator. And that was interesting time for us as well as a company, just because we made a ton of progression, but we also had to manage personalities from mentor standpoints, team standpoint, and just push hard to reach our objectives and goals that we set out for ourselves. So I think that was another huge part of my learning experience at UW, aside from the classroom, is just it goes back to the prioritization aspect, where during that time, that became my focus. In the classroom, I was checking the boxes. But though that was my real company that I'm actually working on all the time, trying to progress forward. So that took my focus, and we were able to win a grant award at the end of it. So I really wanted to make sure that we performed really well and were able to engage with business partners and stuff like that. So I think the year 2 of my time at Foster was all about experimenting with different things from a business standpoint, learning what worked well and what worked or didn't work well, social media wise and just business wise, to help progress forward. But outside of the classroom, what do you think had the biggest impact on you at your time at Milgard?
Outside of the classroom? At Milgard? Like, are you talking about like in relation to school still outside of the classroom, or are you just talking about
like in year 2, what did you really like? For me, it was experimenting with different things entrepreneurship wise, trying to punch above our weight, and starting You Ride and working with the team, learning how to manage and go through all that. What do you think had the biggest impact on you? Was it with your new YouTube channel and trying to take elements that you learned? I think you talked a lot about, or that second year, is just personal branding and learning how to actually position yourself well to grow your page and be in the right market. But
no, you're right. The second year really taught me, or the second year, I should say, because we're technically still in it, or at the tail end of it. And it definitely was more so about personal branding for sure, and learning what that means, because as I'm sure a lot of the people watching this know, I've had to rebrand. I've made that, announcement with the new YouTube and stuff, and understanding what personal branding meant, because the whole idea with content creation, even just like this video that's going to get uploaded, I never intended for my original, when I first started, for everything to go the way that it originally went, right? Like, I never intended to grow a massive following on TikTok by doing like stupid, goofy, like things that weren't related to me. and understanding that the true intent that I had was the personal brand that I already had in my head. And it all comes down to, I don't know if we've talked about it before. I don't think we have. The 7 habits of highly effective people. One of the habits is keep the end in mind. And it essentially means like you have a goal and you set out to achieve that goal. Make sure that the decisions you make line up with that goal. And so I think that's more so the biggest takeaway in terms of personal branding is more so stick with the end in mind with this year too. Is that, yeah, like it's important to grow the brand. Money is like a necessary evil for entrepreneurship, personal brand, anything that you really do. It's a necessary evil. And that's one thing that I took away was just like keep the end in mind, because the money aspect is important for sure. But then if you start doing things for money, it can get difficult. And like we talked about this just these last couple of days, like you're trying too hard. That's not personal branding. That's trying too hard. That's what it really is.
Yeah. I think we've talked about it actually quite a bit, is to keep the end in mind is something that in the military and just outside of it, we think about a lot with when you're going through different selections or just training events and stuff like that. It sucks ass in the moment and you're like, dude, I'm freaking cold. I don't want to go walk.
Yeah.
I don't want to do whatever. But then you realize when you zoom out a little bit and look at it from the macro level, you only have a few more days left or only a few more weekends left, and
Right.
you just focus on that. And you can focus, that seems like a pain in the ass for you to get to your goal, take it minute by minute. You focus on, all right, I just did this 1 mile. Now I got 1 mile more to go. And it's like what you're talking about with keep the end in mind. Like if you just focus on the shitty situation that you're in, you're going to lose sight on the end goal.
Right.
And if you just focus on breaking it down to little subsections that you can actually manage, bite-sized things that you can actually work through, you'll stay on track and hit your goals. And yeah, I think with personal branding, that's a huge thing that you've worked on lately. And I think just in general is like people get caught up in personal branding. And we talked about this, probably one of the topics on the very first things that we did, first podcast that we did, where we were talking about the different niches and stuff. But
I don't mean to interrupt, but I think one of the chapters on the thing is personal brand.
Yeah,
on the YouTube video.
Yeah. It was literally one of the very first things that we talked about, and just how some people have niches and some don't, and whether you should or shouldn't. But I think just being yourself is the brand.
Yeah.
You are the brand. No one is like Levi Mack. No one has your experiences. No one has your thoughts and emotions and everything like that. So you're the brand. Don't try and be someone else.
Yeah.
Yes, you train hard and you're an athlete and you want to post about that, but like at the end of the day, you are you, and that is what the brand is. And other people with similar mindsets and values and everything like that will find your page naturally and gravitate towards that. If you try and post solely certain types of content, that's more of a business at that point, as opposed to being a personal brand where people align with you as a person and want to be a part of that and follow your journey. So
yeah, and that takes me kind of back on the road to entrepreneurship. I mean, it's still personal brand. I think I said that like a few seconds ago, where it's like entrepreneurship and like personal brand are very similar, and any sort of aspect of business, and that is originality. And you know about that from entrepreneurship, and that's something else that I've learned in this second year. I don't know if you've learned this too, is that originality is or blue ocean. You've heard that term, I'm sure, in business. Is that when you have a blue ocean product, and you can think about it in terms of personal brand too. I actually brought this up in class with my professor, and he goes, I've never actually thought about that, but that is true. How blue ocean and personal brand are kind of the same thing, because a personal brand is so different from what's out there. Like you said, posting for a specific thing, it probably already exists. For example, if I'm posting about how I'm an athlete, there's like 20 other million people doing that on social media. So what makes me a blue ocean in that market? Nothing. There's no difference. But me is what makes me the blue ocean, because I'm so different from everyone. Everyone's so different. Everyone's a blue ocean, technically. And that's what makes the entire ocean, is the fact that everyone is so different from one another. And I don't know if you've learned that from entrepreneurship and having a product, whether it's, Elevate or Kill Built, is that there's got to be something about your brand that makes it a blue ocean. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's something you've been able to take away.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think the blue ocean is what you want to avoid You
Really?
that well, it's
I thought
think,
it was what differentiates
well,
you, and then like it can
the ocean is
further.
the thing at large. You want to find your segment within the blue ocean that makes you the specific thing, and then it's just like what you're talking about with crossing the chasm, where you want to find, or you want to find your niche and nail that down
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then expand out of that to the
Yeah.
blue ocean at large with another segment. But yeah, exactly. I think with Elevate or with You Ride, we start with our very specific set of customers and product that we're trying to push out, and then we're expanding. Once we nail that down and master it, we want to expand out of that into other segments and reach other parts of the ocean at large. But yeah, I think personal branding definitely ties into that. Like the professor was saying,
Yeah.
it's a huge part of that. But so now that we're kind of in the graduation week here, I already graduated kind of. We did the Foster celebration thing. I'm not going to walk in the actual thing, but you're walking tomorrow.
Lucky.
What are the thoughts on that? And what's the thoughts on the way forward? What's the future for Levi Mack post grad?
Post grad, like I said earlier, money's a necessary evil. I got to make money to make money, or got to make money to spend that money to make money is what I really should have said. And that's the focus. I've been telling people that on YouTube, and I don't know if you even caught that in the videos. I've been telling people that, and that's really where we're at. I'm never gonna give up on the gym dream business, even if it doesn't work out in the end. I'm never gonna I at least have to open the doors one day and say I opened a gym, because at that point, that's all that really matters, is the fact that I get there. I have the resources and the tools to get there. I think that school played a crucial part in me being able to actually get a job that's going to help fund this and get me closer where I'm trying to go. And probably, I mean, who knows? Who knows what I'm going to learn from like this, the next job that I pick up. I might learn some sort of like automation system that I can use for my gym. Who knows, And so I'm really just in, like you've said before, like we got to make more money for our brands, for entrepreneurship. Like I don't know about you. I'm not trying to take out a venture capitalist like type loan or anything like that for Killable. And I don't know if you feel the same way for Elevate, because it's clothing. It would be more reasonable for the other ideas I've told you before. But that's kind of where I'm headed. I still have the end in mind of where I want to go. I want to build the personal brand up. The Run Club's going to be, I think, huge for both of us for that. And shoot, hopefully I get a girlfriend at some time. It's just taking long enough.
No, you've been burnt. You've been taking way too long on that and third wheeling it with us all the time. But yeah, I think you got some exciting stuff coming forward, and we have some similarities in the future and the way forward for us. I think that you definitely will be able to take elements of your next job and apply it to that, especially if you get into a marketing role. You'll learn firsthand from either an agency or what it's like to work in a marketing department for a company while you're in it. And then you can apply that to your company or your gym that you later start. And I think school was huge for you in terms of starting your own gym, just because you've learned a lot about how to position your gym to separate yourself from other gyms that have started and failed, and also just learning from Hormozy and stuff like that to know how to actually run a successful gym, because it's not a great business. And so I think you'll definitely be able to do it, and it'll be an exciting chapter once you get there for sure.
I mean, you said we had similarities, but you're about to be a dad.
I am.
That's crazy. I didn't even prepare this question. It's just been on my mind. Like, you're about to be a dad. You're about to get into the workforce. You're owning this company. How do you even manage that? Like there's gonna literally be another life.
Yeah.
In your life. Like, what the heck?
It's an exciting time for sure. I think we both are very stoked on it and ready for it. And we are both the aunts and uncles that hang out with the nephews and nieces and are always the ones that are around them and spend the most time with them and stuff like that. So it's going to be a natural transition for us. It's not going to be hard at all.
Yeah.
Obviously, the sleepless nights and other things like that will be the hard part. But I think just how I will be able to navigate that is the same way I've been able to navigate the last 2 years, is just balancing my time well and knowing how to prioritize. And so having systems in place to stay on track is huge, like using tools like Notion or whatever the other structured and things like that to structure out your day and make sure that you have time balanced out. That way you're hitting all the things that you need to throughout the day and still have time to keep your head on straight is huge. And so that's something that I've done throughout the entire time at school. Like I have a daily planner where I write down my priority projects that I have going on. And then below that, I write out my priority tasks and I give myself 5 that I have to do. And then I have subtasks for all of those to actually make sure that I'm doing those well. And then I journal every single day where I write are my distractions going into that day that I need to stay away from.
Yep.
And then what are my thoughts, and just brain dump like 10 minutes of what are my thoughts in that moment and about whatever I want to write about that day. And so that helps really stay on track. So like the other big thing is prioritizing time with family, and I'm not the best at it. I think that's one of the hard parts about entrepreneurship and doing school and working and being married and having a family. And that's something I'm definitely gonna have to work on as we do have our kid, is prioritizing that time with family. But that's also the time to reset and stay charged for all the other aspects. So I think it helps.
I hate those leashes.
Yeah. It's a fully enclosed just circle of staying productive and being able to stay balanced. Is you work hard, but you also need to be able to recharge the batteries so that you can continue to work hard.
You know how you be asking, every time, by the way, every time Rory and I go on a road trip, he makes a joke about how I'm like constantly falling asleep, or I'll fall asleep like 3 or 4 times. He's like, oh, Levi gets in the car, it's instant, like, especially if I'm not driving. Those are my resets. That's why I take those naps, is because I feel like every single time, every single day, we're constant. Like, entrepreneurship never ends. You're constantly thinking about your business, whether you're consciously thinking about it or subconsciously thinking about it. Like, you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And those naps are resets for me.
I thought you were going to say you need a nap right now because you're buzzed from the old Jack Daniels and you're sitting there with the sun on your face.
Oh, I'm feeling
I can tell you're feeling it.
Feeling the doozy coming on for sure. But, speaking of, like, I think one thing I wish I would have highlighted more, definitely in like my personal brand, but we didn't do it as much in my second year for my personal brand to even like show it. Because our first year we went to Eastern Washington a few times. Like, we went and, we wakeboarded. We did these super cool things I wish we would have captured on camera. And I think that people missed out on a lot of that. And again, I wish I would have recorded. I already kind of said that. But something else I wish we would have done is shared more of the dumb mistakes. I think we just, not that we were trying to avoid them on purpose to be perfect, but like, dude, there was so much. Like, even the video I recorded, I don't even think I had like told anyone about, we broke the ATV at my dad's place. What else happened?
It's not even like we're trying to avoid it. It's just we are living in the moment.
With us
24/7. But me and Levi have terrible luck where anytime we're together, we're the kind of people that just, when we're not even trying to do anything, we're actually trying to do something right and take care of the thing that we're using, we'll always break it. And so, like your dad's ATV, I have my dirt bike, and we went out to Idaho, and you go to use the ATV, and little did we know that one of the tires had a little leak in the air, and so the tire wasn't fully beaded on, and by the time we're done riding for the day, the tire is like half off the rim. And so that was sweet, and we couldn't get it back on, and we couldn't get it to a dealership to get it fixed, and so we just had to leave it there like that for your dad to come take care of. What else has happened?
I think that there's so much I can't necessarily pinpoint, but like, I know there's definitely a few. I think there's probably been some things that like we came to the gym and told each other. I think, for example, a lot of the times we would come to the gym and talk about like, oh, this stupid supplier, like I got this dumb sample and then this happened. Or like even like our hunting trips and stuff like that. Just some of the dumb things that happened with that, you know? And I think one of the dumb things that happened was we were hunting that one time. we talked about this with Trent the other day. How we pulled up and that guy was coming on his quad, and it's just like, dude, what are the like? We got lucky. Our asses got lucky, but that whole trip, I mean, we basically went to California and back.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah, I mean, definitely things like that. It's been funny times for sure. Anytime we borrow something from anyone, we somehow find out a way to break it when just stupid stuff happens. No matter what we try and do, it can't happen right on the first time, I think is just our luck, but it just makes it for a fun adventure and just makes us work that much harder for whatever we're trying to do, for sure.
Yeah. I think sometimes I like to think that that's just how, like, God has my life, like, set out for me. Like, it's supposed to be a bunch of dumb mistakes because, like, I chose entrepreneurship as my path. You know, you have to be able to deal with, like, the dumb mistakes and stuff, even if it's something as goofy as, oh, your dad's tire fell off the quad and now you have to deal with it. Or...
Yeah, I don't even know if it relates to entrepreneurship. I think it just is literally life, dude. I think, like, we talked about it on the way down here. Like, the first time I go to back down Trent's boat or truck to pick up his boat, I'm going to reel the boat in, and then the teeth shear off the freaking sprocket, and then the boat can't even get loaded into the trailer, and we have to jerry rig it to actually get it out of the water and bring it back to the cabin. Or I go to borrow one of his paddles to paddle out with a tube, and literally the first time I go to paddle, I snap the entire oar in half, and like just stuff like that happens all the time, and that's just our luck. But
well, I said entrepreneurship because, you know, my dad owns a grocery outlet, and I see all the time dumb stuff happening like that. Whether it's like an employee, and people don't know this, dude. The people that work at grocery outlet, man, they're a different kind of breed. And I did work there, but dude, the people that work there, man, some of the things I've heard them say, like, oh, why I can't come into work, and just seeing my dad have to deal with that dumb stuff because he has hard luck. And I just look, I'm like, there's got to be a reason for, I mean, you're right. Like, it is part of it is just life. Like, not everything's going to be perfect. But at the same time, there's a cross similarity with, like, entrepreneurship where, like, for example, you want a sample made. You get the sample, and you're like, holy crap, was this for, like, you know, this is for Kung Pao's fried chicken, and we're on some... What is this? Like, this is not Kill Bill or Elevate. And it's just dumb. It's just stupid. It's kind of just like, oh, you rip the teeth out of for the boat thing. You're like, this is stupid. This is dumb.
Yeah. It's funny how it happens like that. And it is kind of, it's just the curse that we've been bitten with, but we just got to deal with it. But let's talk about more of the fun stuff that we've done over the past 2 years. We've been way too serious in this pod. We said we weren't going to do philosophical bullshit, and then
but there was a lot of good lessons.
No, definitely. But now we're 30 minutes into this sucker.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at my topics that I had down there. Like,
I think one of the goofy things I can think of is just, dude, this guy Rory. Every time there's any sort of girl, dude, anytime, dude, and she'll be like not even good looking, and this guy's like, oh, you should hit her up, and I'm thinking to myself, what is this guy on?
I think it's funny because you said last year, by Memorial Day I'm gonna have a girl, by Memorial Day I'm gonna have a girl, and
I just felt it coming, man.
Yeah, I did too. But you got to put yourself out there in the position to find these jerks, because your normal path of life doesn't put you in position to get in line in front of chicks with your picky standards. And so I think now you're in a pretty decent spot where potentially we might have a Mrs. Mac coming into the future. But yeah, it'll be a lot more fun once we get Mr. Mac to have a girl over here, because then we won't have third wheel the whole time. We can actually go out and do stuff. But
this is true. But how do you, like, how do you even meet girls nowadays? Like, dude, everyone that I know has met a girl through some goofy Jimmy rig thing. Like, for example, well, not goofy, but Jordan met his girl at school. I asked a girl out at school. That didn't even work out. It was the one I had my eyes set on. Oh, I actually asked two out. At my school. They were both taken. And then, you know, the gym, I asked, I'm just gonna say it. The Damon out, dude. I asked her out, man, and and I've told you about all of these ones. Like, where else do I go? I mean, I haven't asked one at coffee shops, to be honest. Like, I
Yeah,
haven't.
you're slacking there.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it's just a different time period too, where chicks say that they like getting asked out and stuff like that, but also the standard now is through social media and also dating apps.
Yeah.
That's where everyone's accustomed to meeting whoever they want to date or that kind of stuff, and so they're not used to getting asked out in person, and it's kind of foreign to them. But yeah, I think you just got to keep on shooting your shot, and the one will eventually come around. But also, you don't leverage the dating apps or anything like that, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think that the natural way is definitely the best for sure, just going out and finding someone in person. But it's just a different time for sure, and you're shooting yourself in the foot when you're not on those apps. But I think you have to go on the right app if you're going to do
Hinge.
it. Hinge or some of these other ones. That way, you're actually finding someone that's looking for the same thing that you're looking for, and not just a hookup. You're trying to find a long-term relationship, or just through mutual connections. But like, you have a few prospects that are starting to blossom a little bit that could lead to potential partners, I think. But
I don't know.
ladies, if you're watching this, Levi's ready. Hit him up.
Don't. He says this, and there's been a couple times. I'm gonna tell y'all, like, I mention I'm single in a YouTube video or a podcast. I'll get a couple in the DMs, and I'm like, I shouldn't have said a damn thing. And it's not like they're like, oh, not.
Love the DMs.
It's not like they're like it's not like they're ugly or anything. It's like most of the time it's just I look at their page and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way we're gonna be together. Like their personalities are not gonna mesh at all. I'm an extreme, like for sure. I think that's part of why my personal branding's hard a little bit. I think I have the personality for it, but I think I'm extreme. I think it'd be hard to be with me to some extent. I think all the girls I've dated have had a problem with that extremeness. And it's not even like necessarily extreme where I'm like David Goggins, stay hard. It's more of just like, damn, what's Levi got going on next? Oh, he's got a goal in mind. He's going to do it. And you've been lucky enough to find someone who puts up with it. And it's hard to find. I don't think you realize how hard that is to find.
I was very fortunate to fall into my situation with Megan, and I am beyond happy with that situation. And just, she makes everything easier. I think that's a huge part of it, is like all of my shortcomings, she helps fill those gaps.
Yeah.
And that's how you know when you found the right person. It's like once you start dating around and meeting some girls and stuff like that, and you're just seeing if they're the right one, you'll just know instantly. Like, I wasn't going into it trying to find the woman that's going to end up being my wife and be the woman that carries my child. Like,
yeah,
it was going to be my first long-term girlfriend, and then it ended up just being exactly what I was looking for the entire time. And so I think you just got to put yourself out there in those situations, and it will just happen when it's meant to happen. Like, obviously you're religious and everything like that, and so you believe that God's got a plan, and also that everything happens for a reason. I think when it's meant to happen, the right one will come along. So hopefully it's this summer. That way we can have some fun, get out there on the boat and have some fun times, but it'll happen when it happens.
Woo! Yeah, no, hopefully it does. I mean, shoot, this is a side note, and this thought popped up in my head, like, how does Megan even, like, were y'all's first dates, like, it couldn't have been going out to eat, because she would have, like, probably dumped you in the beginning, because you would have ate so fast, she'd have been like, man, this guy is, like, something's wrong with him. This guy eats so fast, it freaks me out, because I eat fast. And I've always been the person that people tell, like, oh, slow down when you eat. And I kid you not. Him and I always order the same thing, probably just because, like, we know it's good. And it'll be some huge thing. And I'll get halfway done. And mind you, I'm eating fast. This guy's done before me. Like, y'all couldn't have gone out to eat.
Oh, we did for the first date. But
first date where? Chuck E. Cheese or something, so you could play arcade to distract yourself?
We went to Ivers for the first date out on
Okay.
Pike Place Market. And then there was a little music festival happening on Alki Beach. And so we went to that afterwards. But yeah, it was a fun date. But you gotta pace yourself when you're on the first date. That way she doesn't think you're just a madman animal.
Yeah.
But nah, I think the worst is when you're going over to the parents' house for the first time and then you're trying not to scarf
I've
down
been
all
there.
the food. That way you're just sitting there quiet. Like the food is your only break from having the awkward conversation. So you got to just dial it in. But also, I don't eat fish. And so, like, I can't remember if it was the first date. No, not first date. One of the first few dates or something like that. But, like, I'm pretty sure they made fish or something like that. And I hadn't told, or Megan hadn't told them or whatever about, like, I don't eat that. So you just have to, like, that was definitely an interesting thing to navigate and just make it through that. And you're just sitting there swallowing the fish, and then you're like, "Yep, this is good."
Yeah.
No, I definitely didn't eat it, but yeah.
Have you ever been such a fast eater, whether it's with your girlfriend's parents or whatever the hell it is, that you're eating so fast, and it's usually in like a professional setting, where you're eating so fast and you have like that, you could easily make it a one bite of food left, but you're like you're like cutting it in the smallest little bites, and you're like, oh, just to make it seem like you're not going to go up and get seconds right away.
Yeah, I was doing that all the time at their house for sure. It's like we would get flank steak, and they would make good portions and stuff like that, and they make killer flank steak, and I'm sitting there eating it, and I'm like, all right, I gotta make this one flank steak where I would have put 3 little slices of it in my mouth and eaten that entire thing all at once.
Pause.
Yeah, I know, pause, seriously. But now I have to eat like 3 bites per strip of flank steak when I would have had all of it. So yeah, it's funny looking back on it now, like, and it's gonna be funny when you actually get a girl, just seeing the progression of your comfort with them and all of that, just because like Megan and I have been together, it'll be 2018 to 2024, so what are we going on 6 years or 7 years this fall? But just seeing the progression in our relationship to, like, we're married and have been, so like we're insanely comfortable with one another, but like the first few dates to now, it's just like crazy. And once you get to that stage, it's so much fun because you can just literally be yourself, and I think that's going to be awesome for you because you're a goofy motherfucker, and once you meet a girl that can actually handle all of that, it'll be good for you.
Yeah, I never told you this, but like the last girl I dated and the girl before that, so 2 girls ago, that one I was my full self around, and that was fun. Like, you're right, it is fun. Like, you're freaking what is that called? Dutch oven. You know, you pull a Dutch oven on them or something, and it makes it funny. As we're like, dude, my last one, I could not even. I don't even think I farted around her, dude. I don't even think I did. And we had been dating for a whole year. Like, do you think that's because like you're afraid of like their judgment almost, like because they're so different from you and they wouldn't do something like that? Is that Yodiland approved?
Nah, I mean, maybe. I think it also, a year is still pretty early on. I mean, when you're together for a year, I feel like you get pretty comfortable with each other, but it depends on the individual. But yeah. I don't know. I think, yeah, maybe it's definitely more on the girls where they are embarrassed or shy and don't get comfortable enough yet to do all that stuff. But dudes definitely do it too. Like, guys are afraid to go drop a massive one in front of their girls and stuff like that. But
I actually have a funny ass story about that. There was my girlfriend, one of my, not my most recent, but the one before that, came over to my house, right? And it wasn't me, but she was like, hey, I have to go to the bathroom really quick, right? And unlike, me, I don't know about you, but when I be taking dumps, like, kind of in there a little while, man. It takes a while to process everything. And I'd be wiping for, like, ever. And, dude, she goes in, she comes out, and I'm thinking she probably just took a piss or something like that. It was pretty quick and whatnot. Maybe she touched her makeup up. Maybe it was a little longer. But she came out and was chilling on the couch. And one of my sisters goes in after her. Is like, dang, who took a fat dump in here?
And her face just turned instantly red.
But what was funny is I didn't realize it in the moment that she was just in there.
Yeah.
And dude,
she just got called out in front of your entire family.
Yeah, she like later told me like, oh, dude, I was so embarrassed, and I was like, that's funny as shit.
She clogged the toilet and didn't fix it, and your sister walked in.
I don't think she clogged it, dude, but it was stinky, man.
I mean, you've told me some pretty funny stories too about your stand-up wiper. That's crazy.
Yeah, I am, dude.
Stand-up wiper is crazy.
Dude, if anyone knows that's watching this how hard it can be to like wipe, dude, you know sometimes to like get it all, you gotta stand up, man. I don't know what it is. Like sitting down, I'll be like, okay, I think I got it all, and I'll stand up and wipe, and I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I'm definitely not on the stand-up wiping train, but I think the weirdest one of all is the back to front wiping.
Dude, my dad's friend John does that. That's not me.
Yeah, no. That's how you, like, even some of the, as you get older and stuff, when you get the saggy skin, like some dudes literally will get infections and shit from that. Where
like, why does it end up like in the creases of like their ball
their
sack or
taint
something?
shit,
Oh, okay, that's gross.
Infection. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, we can stop talking about that. Dude, thank goodness the shade is coming over. I was getting hot as hell, and I could see
to sweat.
Yeah, I could see this beads of sweat kind of forming on your forehead.
Great segue in the podcast. I think maybe we take an intermission right here.
Yeah, I gotta pee.
Yeah. All right, we are back. Had to take a little bathroom break, let ourselves collect our thoughts a little bit, and get ready to close this thing out. So, to close out the podcast here, just a recap of the past 2 years with college and everything like that, and just what we've been doing to grow our brands. Levi and I wanted to do a quick little segment. We're going to fire off 30-second rapid-fire questions and just answer topics on business, entrepreneurship, growing clothing brands, social media, that kind of stuff. So we're going to run through that right now. I stole the idea from Pulp MX. If you watch motocross or supercross and you follow any of the podcasts, you'll know who Pulp MX is, and they do the X-Brand tear-off segment, and it's a super good idea. So we're going to steal that right now. And then we're also going to talk about a little bit of some topics regarding entrepreneurship beyond the 30 seconds, just some thoughts that I had from the Creating a Company course where I served as a mentor this past quarter, and then also the Startup Accelerator we talked about beforehand. So we'll kick it off with the first question. Yeah, 30 seconds on the clock. The second I go.
Okay.
What inspired you to start your brand?
I always wanted to start my brand. I just didn't know where to go. I prayed about it, and all of a sudden you came into the gym, and I was like, sick. What's the thing going to be on? And I was like, well, you know, I've always struggled with self-esteem and whatnot. So I think that if I can build a brand around self-esteem, helping other individuals go after their goals, that's what I'm going to do.
Nice. And for me, starting Elevate, I started Elevate while I was deployed overseas. I was in a gap in between quarters for doing online college, and I wanted to teach myself the skills, so I started learning graphic design. I've always been super into clothes. Even when I was in high school, I would draw mock-ups of different silhouettes for shoes, and I would resell shoes online on YouTube when YouTube first started. Where it was first starting to pop off, so that really was where I got my ground there. But on that deployment, I started making mock-ups of products that I wanted to launch, and then as I was making the transition out of the military, that's how I kind of started it. All right. Question number 2 is, how did you find your target market? And I think you still are trying to find that right now, but how did you find it, and what do you think it is?
When you and I went over it at Olympia Coffee, we both did that thing where we filled out the target market and who we were actually trying to identify. Ended up being a person who was very similar to me. And so it kind of goes back to kind of what we talked about earlier with personal branding. It's really connecting with an individual who's like me, kind of like what I said with like the clothing brand, trying to connect with people who might struggle with some sort of self-esteem issue and get them to get inspired. So I think that, you know, it's always going to be a struggle to pinpoint exactly who we're going for, but that's a general sense.
Who is the target market? Who is your target market?
Individuals like me?
No, your avatar. Who is the avatar?
Oh, my avatar's Derek. Yeah.
Who is Derek?
Oh, okay. Derek is a 21 to around 30-year-old male, and he enjoys a lot of outdoor activities. He's a go-getter. He sets high expectations for himself. He wants to make people proud. He enjoys working out, 90s rock. Hence, that age group is 90s, early 2000s. And he lives kind of in like the suburban area, because definitely not. If you live in the city, you're soft, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And he's definitely not soft. So,
Nice. All right, we'll do one watch this time. How did I find my target markets? Boom. How did I find my target market? So I got two, one for Elevate, one for U-Ride. How I found the target market for Elevate? Well, the target market is me. I started Elevate because I wanted to design the exact clothes that I wanted to wear, the exact products and designs that I wanted to wear, and drew a lot of inspiration from a bunch of different things: music, skate, sports, that kind of stuff, and combined it all into one. So I do have a target market avatar similar to you named Ethan, slightly different parameters within that. So Ethan is like a graduate level student and is into like a tech role, consulting style role, or marketing role as a creative director, creative manager, marketing director. And so likes to get out there, get after it from a fitness standpoint, but also likes to wear nice clothes and takes pride in what they wear and how they represent themselves at work and outside of it. And so, yeah, that's kind of how we found that market. And in terms of U-Ride, it was a very easy target market to find, where in terms of the actual core product, the ski hugger, we're trying to give it to beginners and families to make it easier for them to get to and from the mountain. But how you actually sell product in the ski industry is by getting advanced skiers to use your product and wear your apparel, because beginners don't want to wear what other beginners are wearing. They want to wear what advanced skiers are wearing. So we have to pitch and sell that product to them, and then the rest will fall in line from there. All right. Next question. What were the first steps that you took to launch your brand, or first steps you recommend to launch a brand?
come up with a general idea. You need a general idea of that gives you some clarity, and then learn. YouTube University. Look it up. Figure it out. If I hadn't have met Rory, I'm pretty sure I would have started the clothing brand at some point eventually. But YouTube has always been my point of focus. I've learned everything and anything from YouTube or other people. So ask around, figure out the information. Go figure out the actual information yourself. That's something you and I talk about all the time.
Made 30 seconds there. Yeah, to go off of that, the first steps I would say is, number one, network. Meet people that have already done it and are further ahead in the game, so you can learn from their mistakes and talk to them about your respective industry. Number two would be conduct market research and just learn about the specific industry you're trying to enter in and find a specific niche within that. So, and then number three would be come up with a business plan. And companies come up with business plans all the time, but they don't actually stick to it. So make a plan and actually follow the plan to a T. All right, number 4. This is actually an interesting topic that we were going to talk about anyways in the longer section, so let's just address it now in the 30 seconds. Okay. How important is social media?
Social media is actually important as hell. Like, let's get that clear, because that's where all your competition's at. You always want to be where your competition's at. However, you and I have made the mistake of making it more important than it actually is. Rory and I have made the most amount of sales in one day from actually just going out in person. And that says something. That's data you need to interpret. So it's important, but not as important as you think.
Yeah, I think going off of that, like, social media is really important. That way you can expand your reach and get your brand in front of new eyes and new customers that previously wouldn't have access to your brand, and reach a global audience. But the making sales in person is huge and easier because you can control the environment, like we talked about earlier in the podcast, and you can control the sale instead of having someone go on your website and it's all up to them of whether they make a click or not. You're there talking with them the entire time and controlling that to help convert them as a sale. And just to drive that point home a little bit further, so many people, when they're first starting out a brand, they think that social media is the only way to actually grow a brand, but it's literally not. It's one aspect of a marketing plan, but social media is literally just one peg in the marketing plan. It's great for all the reasons that I just mentioned, of reaching a global audience and getting organic reach. And when you don't have a ton of money to spend on ads or other things like that, you can get significant reach if you do your content right. But there's so many other things. Blog posts on your website to get SEO to help rank higher. Working on your SEO that you actually put in your website with specific keywords and everything like that throughout the little parts of your website, doing alt text on images, email marketing, putting up flyers around town. There's so many things that you can do to expand your reach and potential as a brand to actually get those first 100 sales, 1,000 sales to get you over the hump.
Yep.
All right. Next one is, how did you create your brand identity?
I created my brand identity based off of my struggles. And you and I talked about that before and how I kind of need to rebrand the logo a little bit because Kilbolt says building ego since now, but I built my brand identity around the things that I struggled with. I struggled with feeling confident about who I was raw as a person, complete vulnerable me, and building blocks of saying, I did this is who I am.
Yeah. I think for me, how did we create our brand identity? For the first 30 seconds with Elevate, I wanted to create a brand that was a minimalist streetwear and activewear line that could create clothing for while you're at work with the leisure look, but also have work once you're done. You can actually put on clothes that you actually want to wear and look good with that as well. So you can have comfortable clothes to wear at work that is minimalist and clean and professional, but have cool, stylish clothes once you're outside of that. And so building beyond that, I wanted to embrace all the topics I talked about before with music, skate, sports, motocross, and embody that with the designs that we create and really drive home the brand identity to the customer avatar that we're trying to reach. And it's all of my hobbies rolled up into my designs that I make. So that is kind of how we started with that, given a premium feel with the products that we try and push out and punch above our weight, like we talked about earlier in the podcast. In terms of U-Ride, the U-Ride brand identity, like I mentioned before, we're trying to reach the advanced skier. And to reach the advanced skier, we're kind of going with, we don't want a super churched up and very professional brand, just like every other outdoor industry product and company. Sorry, there's someone just kayaking over here. We want to make a extremely high quality product, but we also want a fun brand. So it's a mix of like Jerry of the Day, but also Outdoor Research and Arc'teryx, where we put out a performance product that is premium, but we make a funny brand that people can resonate with and everyone can feel a part of. All right. Next, best marketing strategy for new brands.
All right, I'm going to take my time on this one since you're taking some time on the other ones. And this is one that I actually can give some like good advice on, I feel. So marketing, whether it's a personal brand or an actual brand, I think one of the best marketing strategies you can do is telling a story, because a story creates proof of concept and trust. And without a story, nothing can be sold. And I say that because we actually had someone come in from a nonprofit to UW, and they were sharing a testimony. And the guy was still new in business, but he was just giving a presentation to us. I don't think the business was super successful based off like the analytics that he told, but then again, he was coming and speaking to us, so it must be in some sort of way. Either that or he was doing it for outreach for us. But he came in and gave a presentation. He was like, yeah, this girl got $700 for her tuition that helped her pay for her books to go to nursing school. And I raised my hand and I said, hey, do you have that on media? Is someone recording that story and putting it out onto social media platforms? And he was like, no, that's a good question though. Like we are, possibly looking into that. And I'm thinking, that's your marketing right there, is the story, because no one knows what you do until they hear it from someone else. Because again, someone else used your product, trust. Story on what you do tells them what you do. That makes sense to me with marketing.
Yeah, I think for Elevate and U-Ride as well, we have really leaned heavily into the story, and there's been plenty of times where we failed to do that right, specifically with Elevate, where there's so many minimalist streetwear and activewear brands that try and give off this look kind of like what we're trying to go for, and we want to separate ourselves from that. And how you do that is leaning heavily into your story and really positioning yourself from that. So leaning into our military heritage and the attention to detail that was harnessed with every training event and everything that we did in the military, and really providing that with all the products, from a packaging standpoint to the products that we deliver and how we design them, all the way to the events that we host and the marketing campaigns that we shoot. And same thing goes with U-Ride. Like, we told the story from the very start of how we started the brand, showed every detail of growing the brand from college students, and people can see the progression and the quality of the brand. And one thing that we want to do is podcasts like this, where it's founders talk, where we can sit down and talk about our story and what we did each quarter as we progress and grow the brand and land more retail partnerships and get into more ski shops and things like that. So story is huge. And it's a great way to leverage different marketing channels when you don't have a ton of money to spend on all of that.
Yeah.
All right. We kind of already touched on this one earlier in the pod, but what do you think is the biggest challenge as an entrepreneur in 30 seconds? Go.
Biggest challenge as an entrepreneur, for me, this is a personal thing. Biggest challenge for me is the uncertainty that you're dealing with, because there's no right way to do entrepreneurship. You'll see that all across the board. Some people, they get lucky off of social media. Some people, it's like in-person sales. We have a brand here in Tacoma called Etc. They literally grew just local. They didn't, social media wasn't even popping when they started. They've been here for 10 years. Like 10 years ago, social media was a thing, but it wasn't popping. So it's just the uncertainty. You don't know what's going to work. You got to roll with the punches, and that's hard.
What I would say is, for the 30 seconds is, hold on, we're waiting a little bit.
You got 22 seconds,
I
boy.
know. It was super loud when they were going, so I don't have to wait. The biggest challenge as an entrepreneur is, maybe I kind of stole my thunder, but I would say just dealing with the uncertainty and also knowing what to prioritize to help you move your business forward. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, with thinking social media is the only way to grow your business.
Yeah.
A lot of people get so fixated on, I don't have 1,000 followers, I don't have 10,000 followers, I don't have whatever. Like, followers help give you authority and position you within the industry, but they don't always translate to sales.
No.
Like, conversion rates for retail
Yeah.
are, like, a great conversion rate on your site is like 3% of people that go to your site convert on a sale.
Yeah.
That's so bad if you think about it. 97% of people that go to your site in a perfect world or a semi-decent world don't convert on a sale.
Yeah.
So, like, you have to branch out outside of social media. And when people are just starting a company, they think that's the only way to actually grow a brand, but you have to look beyond that. All right. Talk about, in 30 seconds, balancing creativity and business.
Ready, set, go. So creativity and business. Creativity is great because it allows your mind to expand into other options. And I think that you should always try and just try things out and see if it works. But as things start to progress, you keep those creative ideas, but you need to test them, because as your brand grows, there's going to be more money involved and there's more risk. So keep those creative ideas going, but put them in like a test before you actually put them out, because they can be super detrimental if you don't test them.
Yeah, definitely. I think how you balance creativity and business. I think when you're early on in starting your company, creativity is massive. That's how you actually find out what's going to work. Mm-hmm. It's throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And you have to just try everything and anything and see what works for your brand. One clothing brand might pop off just from doing basic reels where you just unpackage the clothing and show different little angles of that. Or the reels of people where they cross the street and do the slow-mo look to the right.
That shit. Good
and
thing that's
they
over.
blow up. And that's how they grew their brand. That's where we prioritize different forms of content and things like that to help grow ours. But I think you just have to find out what works for your brand initially. And then as you get more money, like you were talking about, and as you try and grow the brand, you stick to what works for you, but you slowly try newer things once you have a ton more money in the brand and you're a large scale brand. Stick to what you know works for your brand and what got you to that point. Yeah. But test, because the market's constantly changing and you need to stay up to it. Speaking with the market constantly changing and staying on track, how do you stay on trend?
How do I stay on what?
Trend.
On trends? Okay.
On trend.
On trend?
Yeah.
Like, what does that
trends, mean? But how do you stay on trend with the market and clothing and all of that?
The best way that... Oh, what the heck? The best way that I think you can stay on trend with the market is just paying attention to your performance and honestly another clothing brand's performance. I know a lot of people say like comparison is the thief of joy, but I think that's when you're comparing your circumstance to someone else's circumstance. As where if you're looking at like, hey, what's that person doing that I can get better from? That's a way to stay on top because there's someone that's going to be on top of the trend. And if you can analyze that, it's going to help you out.
Yeah, I think for me, I used to try and limit how many people I followed on social media just so I didn't have a ton of people that I got distracted from. I just wanted to follow the followers that or creators that I wanted to follow that I actually enjoyed their content and wanted to engage with. But now my following list has gone up by like 1,200, and it's because I follow so many other brands to get inspiration from and just see what is going on in my specific segment of the market for Elevate and U-Ride. And that's helped me to stay on track with different creative and marketing ideas from different product development ideas so I can draw inspiration from different pieces from design work to finishings on products and all of that. So I think that's a great way to do it. Also, I think Pinterest is a dated tool that people don't think about much anymore, but I use Pinterest all the time to draw inspiration. If you have an idea that you're thinking about for a product or a design, you just type that into the bar, check it out, and start saving a mood board and then pinning it on your wall and just building that out. That's how I personally stay on trend for Elevate. All right, last one that ChatGPT's got for us right now is one tip for new clothing brands.
One tip for new clothing brand, start. That's all I got to say. Make sure you got a good investment of money too. I guess that's two. Here, I'm going to redo that. We need to redo that one. All right.
He's nervous.
Yeah. We got to redo that. Okay. All right. Ready, set, go. All right. So the tip that I'm going to give for starting your clothing brand has got to be have an idea of what it is that you want to do. Because if you don't have an idea, then A, you're just spending money just to spend money, and it's a lot of money to start a clothing brand unless you do it through some other third-party website, and it'll just cost you time too, and time is money, time is of essence, and there's not an unlimited amount of it, and so you don't want to waste that resource.
For me, I would say just go all in. Once you commit to actually starting a brand, go all in. When you don't have a ton of money to grow your brand, do everything that you can from a social media standpoint and from a marketing standpoint to position your brand for success. You invested that money in inventory. Let's actually move the fucking inventory. So put out reels every single day to grow your brand. Put out an email list once a week. Put out a blog post talking about why you designed the product. What is the story behind the brand? What is going on in the industry for streetwear or whatever your industry is? And talk about that so people understand why you're designing the product and what went behind it as you were thinking about the product, going through the product development and everything like that. I think the other thing for when you're just starting a clothing brand is find what separates you from other brands. And so everyone can say they're premium. That's a word that's thrown around, or luxury. It's a word that's thrown around all the time.
I hate
and all these brands do the same streetwear photo or streetwear shirts with the whatever club on the back of the shirt. It's every single brand does the same thing. What separates you? Go back to what we talked about before. It's the story.
Yeah.
Your story is what separates you and helps position your brand for a way for customers.
Yeah. No. I gotta end off on this. So, or at least I gotta add on to that really quick. Is that the other day, actually, in a job interview, I was asked if you had to rank these three, what would it be in terms of like priority? And they said it was brand, product, and sales. And I said brand, sales, and product, because everyone can have the same product. Doesn't matter. By the way, every single clothing brand that you probably buy from is probably is probably like the same blank, but it's a different brand. So the brand's going to matter the most because of that. Next thing is definitely sales. Why? Because sales is trust. It's how you build trust. It shows that, like, hey, I care about you. We want you to be a part of our team. I care about you. It's establishing that trust and creating awareness about your brand. And the product is the product.
Yeah.
You really we all know that we all buy a brand because of how it makes us feel. It's not the actual, yeah, we like certain pieces, but there's more to it than that.
I think I agree with your list, but I would say that yes, product does not deserve to be number one, because product, even if you have a shit hot product, if you can't sell the product, you have a shit hot product that sits in your warehouse.
Yeah.
So you need to have a shit hot product that people actually give a fuck about. And that starts with positioning your brand well, marketing your brand well, and everything like that. So brand is number one, 100%. I think what we talked about before, though, with product is if you have an amazing product, like look at the run clubs that have an amazing experience that people want to come back to, they grow crazy quick because the experience and the product is amazing. If you have an amazing product like Arc'teryx or Black Diamond or any of these things, it's going to sell itself because the quality of that product is just insanely good that people need the product. So I think I would go brand, product, and then sales. But I think sales and product are a 2A, 2B type thing, where if you have an amazing product, like a ton of companies can have an amazing product, but if you have an amazing product that's positioned well, it will sell itself. And that's something we're really trying to prioritize with Elevate over this next year with all the products that we launch, is just making insanely high quality products that our customers want to wear all the time, and it sells itself. We're not trying to shove product down people's throats. We want to just make amazing products that people actually want to wear, and they'll wear every single day. And that's the goal of what we want to do. We're not trying to do a ton of sales and do discounts all the time and just make money. We're not in it for the money. The only reason I started the brand is make cool shit that I actually want to wear. And so as long as I still like what I'm making and want to keep making that stuff, I'll invest some money into the brand and do it. Like, keep trying to push the brand and grow the brand to find other people that like the stuff we're making. But those are the 10.
Yeah. Well, guys, that was fun. I enjoyed that part of the podcast a lot. I think one thing I just want to say is, dude, we're all figuring out life one step at a time. It's cool to hear all this, and I think a lot of the times, Rory and I are high achievers, but that doesn't mean we have life figured out any more than anyone else. If we did, we probably wouldn't be talking about some of the topics we did today. And I hope that you guys learned a lot from this podcast, but I hope you guys also know that you're watching two people still trying to figure it out, and that's just information we've learned from just starting.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do podcasts. He had his podcast, but we don't really rip it often. No. And I'm not running a podcast. We just wanted to recap the past 2 years and just kind of go over some stuff and just have a conversation with some bros and just sip a few brews. Levi's had his first drink in a long time, just to cap off a celebration with graduating. And so wanted to keep it light. We said we weren't going to get too philosophical and go over too many business topics, but honestly, I think the last segment we just did there covered a lot and provided some value there, just based on our experiences with our brands that we're currently running. But yeah, I think if you're going to start a brand, just do it. And I forgot what I was going to say, but
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think we can cap it there. But honestly, I forgot what I was going to say.
No, you're good. I think I have one last thing. You guys got any questions about One Done podcast? No. One and Done. If you guys have any questions about,
gotta chop this part up and edit it.
If you guys got any questions, well, it's supposed to be live. We're not cutting anything out. If you guys have any questions about One and Done, just ask. It's we're literally at one of the locations, or close to one of the locations where you might start. We're currently at Owens Beach in Tacoma, Washington, and we're going to be in this general location, and there's more to come on that. I just want you guys to stay informed. We're trying to build community. Again, social media is not everything, and we understand that. That's another big point of starting the Run Club. It's also just to build community. I know it's super fun. I like being around people. I think Rory does too. And yeah, just ask questions below, because I know there's going to be someone that watches this that's from the area. So that's all I got.
I don't have any more topics I'm going to forget, but yeah. Hope you guys like this. We're just bullshitting, having some fun, talking with each other. Maybe we'll rip a few later on in the upcoming weeks and months, but yeah, just wanted to provide some value on some business topics and just chop it up. So see you guys later on.